NBC News. This is Primetime Thursday with Diane Sawyer and Charles Gibson.
Good evening. Good to see you again, and welcome to another edition of Primetime Thursday.
And we begin tonight with sudden impact, what's perhaps the most spectacular crash on a NASCAR racing track of all times. Even in a world where men live for speed while the women they love watch from the sidelines, this accident is one they all say they'll never forget, largely because they say they witnessed a miracle that day. And tonight, Chris Cuomo analyzes those flashing moments of heart-stopping terror. Here now is a story we call 3.5 seconds.
3.5 seconds, a few ticks. That's all it took to reduce Mike Harmon's race car to this. Crushed, shredded, literally split in half lengthwise. All that's left of 3,300 pounds of steel after the worst crash in NASCAR history. 3.5 seconds. In that time, Mike Harmon almost died, not once, but twice. Last August 22nd, sunrise is still hours away, but Mike Harmon is up and ready to head to the track and trying not to wake his wife, Deborah.
We said our goodbyes the night before, and because I never wake him when I leave, you know, that time of day.
You're not going to get a good luck. You're waking somebody up at 3:30 in the morning.
That's right. That's right. Especially her.
Harmon, a race car driver for 25 years, was meeting his team at the garage and then caravanning to a track 3 hours away for some very important practice runs. He grabbed breakfast on the way.
Bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit going down the highway that day.
Before you went to get on the track, anything unusual that day? Not
really. It's just a typical deal. Because I've been doing that since I was 16 years old.
There was a lot riding on that number 44, a new car, a Chevy like this. Harmon and his team had been fine-tuning it for weeks. The plan was make a strong finish at the Bristol Speedway in Tennessee and then secure a major sponsor for the team. And right up until 11:15 that Thursday morning, things were going as planned. Racing's about passion, about beating the odds. And sometimes it's about terrible crashes. It's one of those thoughts drivers keep below the surface. Most can't allow themselves to dwell on the possibility.
The only time I think of it is if I'm already in a crash, it's time to survive. Till then, you just prepare for it and hope it don't happen.
But for a racer's family, racing means finding a way to cope with the fear that's with them every day.
You still have that fear in your mind, but you don't, you don't really think about it.
It would be too difficult if you did, right?
Right.
Their daughter, Arami, is 16. She watches her mother on racing days.
She tries to hide it, but I kind of see that she is a little nervous or stressed out. She doesn't say as much as she normally does, and she's kind of quiet, and she'll walk around or walk the dog or something like that and not say that much. It's difficult living with fear, knowing that he is racing when I'm in school or testing, or, just knowing that he's out there running over 100 miles an hour while I'm studying or doing something like that. But I just try to think positive and just overlook my fear of him racing and just hope for the best.
Racing is in Mike's heart and blood. His father was a racer, too. His brother-in-law builds engines, and sister Denise works as Mike's spotter, keeping radio contact with him from a high point at the track.
Clear all the way to the back straightaway.
I'm his eyes from up in the sky. I watch everything on the track that he can't see.
Everything, and yet, of course, no one saw what was coming that day.
We didn't have a clue.
But there was one thing, the silver dollar. Mike's 4-year-old nephew, Peyton, had it, and he was desperate to see his Uncle Mike.
He said, I have to go see Mike right now. I have to give this silver dollar to Mike right now. He needs luck.
The silver dollar had been in the family for years.
And I said, we keep this always. It came from Granddaddy Harmon, and it'll always bring you good luck. This is yours to keep.
But little Peyton had another idea, and he wouldn't take no for an answer.
To him, it was just a dire emergency that Mike had to have that silver dollar that day.
Mike was already at the track 3 hours away, so Denise went to fetch Peyton's silver dollar. a detour that would make her late for the practice run. August 22nd at Bristol was test day, just like this one last week at Daytona. No spectators, just the teams and their cars. Still in primer paint in case of any last-minute fixes. The big-time racers' cars get covered with sponsor logos. But Mike's car has only one. You're one of the smallest teams out there, right?
Right.
It costs a lot of money to race, more than $1 million a year to race a car like Harmon's. And the less money you've got, the less chance of being competitive. What do you think when you show up to the track and these guys are showing up in their huge RVs and they got these teams, look like a rock band? What do you tell yourself?
Well, a lot of guys, you know, it was late in their lap, but, you know, that wasn't a deal for me. I worked for every lap that I've run, and I've worked for every race that I've won. And my dad helped me as long as he could, but he passed away. And, you know, I'm just not going to take no.
That strength and persistence were about to be put to the test.
I mean, you can make excuses or you can do the deal. And doing the deal is what I'm about.
About 3.5 seconds. The entire flash caught on tape by pure chance. Remember, it wasn't a race day, only a practice run like this one. But cameramen were out practicing too. It is 11:15 a.m. Mike Harmon in his $120,000 new car, and he loses control. Harmon has begun the most dangerous 3.5 seconds of his life. When we come back, you will see the most spectacular crash in NASCAR history, and the extraordinary series of twists, and perhaps luck, that somehow allowed Mike Harmon to walk away with barely a scratch.
We return now to the NASCAR circuit and that incredible crash. By all accounts, no one should have survived. But as Chris Cuomo continues, you'll see the unlikely series of tiny events that came together in a fraction of a second to save Mike Harmon's life.
August 22nd was a beautiful morning like this one. A big day for Mike Harmon and his new number 44 race car with only 1.5 miles on it. Time for the final testing before the big race in Bristol, Tennessee the next evening. It's 11:15 a.m. Mike Harmon is just starting a practice lap when something goes horribly wrong with his car. He has just entered the most critical moments of his racing career and maybe his life. The car slams into the wall, spins, and is split down the middle. And then another car drives right through it. The whole catastrophe only took 3.5 seconds. Now that's from now till just about now. That's not enough time to button up your shirt. Not even enough time to give your mama a hug. But in just 3.5 seconds, Mike Harmon almost died twice. Now we'll show you the extraordinary events that happened in that moment. Harmon still doesn't know why he crashed.
The car just veered right. And I knew at that point that I didn't have control of the car and I was going to hit the wall. I braced myself, this is not going to be good.
Here is the first twist of fate. The place on the wall where Harmon hit was actually a gate that hadn't been properly secured and gave way. So instead of skimming along a smooth wall, the right side of Harmon's car slams into the now exposed concrete edge.
It carved right through the car. And all that saved my life was it went on the right side of the engine instead of the left side of the engine.
The car is obliterated, hurling debris over 650 feet of raceway. But what looks like doom is actually saving Harmon's life.
It seemed like a short period of time when you watch it on a video, but when you compare it to accidents, it was really a fairly long period of time.
Yeah. NASCAR safety expert Gary Nelson investigated the crash and says time was Harmon's friend. You would think, common sense-wise, I want this accident to be over as quickly as possible.
Right.
But in reality, you don't. It's better off having it spread out because that's less energy absorbed by you.
Right.
Because the force of impact didn't hit at one moment.
Think of it as there's certain amount of energy under here. If you can lengthen the time, the same amount of energy is there, but the spike is gone. That spike is what you want to avoid.
And there were several safety devices in the car and on Mike Harmon that helped keep him alive. But if science and safety devices can't account for Harmon surviving the first hit, they do little to explain what happens next. Harmon's car spins into the path of an oncoming driver he can't see. That second car literally roars through the middle of number 44, missing Harmon's body by inches.
And it just took all the steering wheel, steering column, it just took everything with him as he came by, and I just crossed my arms.
The engine was still running when it skidded to a stop 100 feet away.
I could see the car was just split in half right beside my seat. And there's the whole sky, it's bright.
Call it luck, call it fate, call it a miracle. Somehow, the only thing left of the car is Mike Harmon.
I see all the guys running towards me, and when I stood up, it was like all those guys got in slow motion. You know, like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. As I was standing up out of the crash, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm glad that I made it through this, because this was close.
Back home, Deborah's out running errands. When she comes home, she finds 15 messages and a ringing phone. It's a team member with the news.
He says there's been a wreck.
Denise, you can't understand how bad this wreck is. He said it's the miracle Mike's alive.
As for Mike's sister, she'd arrived at the track at the exact moment of the wreck. The silver dollar from little Peyton was lying on the console of her car.
And I just picked it up and held it, and I just started crying.
I knew it had to be serious.
Aramie's mom told her that Daddy was okay.
I was in total disbelief. And then later that night, I talked to him, and I was like, God must have been with you. But, I mean, because the wreck was horrible.
Peyton saw it on TV that night. Saw the wreck. And he looked at his mother and he said, oh, no, the lucky coin didn't work. Mike wrecked. And she said, oh, Peyton, it did work because he lived. He didn't get hurt and he lived. Your lucky coin made him live. And then she said he just looked at her and said, oh, that's right.
Now, 5 months after the crash, Mike Harmon is where he always wanted to be, the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. The wreckage of his car is enshrined there. But what he really wants is to get there for his driving, like his dad. You think your dad would be proud?
Yep.
What would he have told you after the crash?
Well, my dad was a pretty tough guy, and he wouldn't never want me to quit, I know that.
So he's there. People questioning whether you should keep going, but you got his legacy.
Oh, yeah.
You got your dreams.
Yeah.
And now, Mike Harmon has his silver dollar for luck.
Mike Harmon plans to be back on the track doing what he loves next month at the Daytona 500. If you like, you can chat online tomorrow with him. Mike Harmon. For details, go to abcnews.com.
Kate Hudson.